every day starts in the van. Don't know if every one of you lot who's got a workshop's got a van, but I have. So every day starts in the van. Said that already. Going down the workshop. It's Saturday. Lockdown 3. Going really fun. Boring today, so I'm going to go down there and do a little project that I started ages ago. It's not really for me. It's more something I was thinking about, little projects we can do together with you guys, and potentially any DIYers that aren't so much interested in the workshop, but more interested in actual woodwork. So today is about doing a project set of shelves. I am obviously driving at the minute, so I'll get on with that and I'll see you when we get there. Right, I'm here. Today we're going to do like a little DIY shelving unit, something that was just inspired from some Australian interior Instagram thing, and I thought I'd do my own take on it for you guys to try at home. If you're DIYers, this would be ideal. If you're not DIYers, this also will be quite good for if you've got kids and you need a little quick shelving rack for their bedroom, for instance, and it'll look quite stylish. There's no spraying, finishing involved. I'm literally going to use an oil to finish it because it's not a hardware or traffic area. It's just going to be hung on the wall, and the oil will keep it nice and sealed just in case grubby fingers get on it, or just for the sake of it not getting dusty basically. So materials we're going to use, you can use any board you want, but today I'm going to focus on 18mm ply. Now this is birch face ply, comes from Latvia. We buy it by the pack, so I think it's about 22 in a pack, so we get lots of offcuts after our kitchens are produced. So this is ideal for me because it's a nice looking material, it has a nice edge on it, and basically it will look really pretty and nice and light coloured on the wall, in contrast with some pegs we're going to use. So I've got here 12mm 1.2 centimetre oak dowel basically. This is a long 2 metre rod of dowel, I think 2.4 actually, yeah. So this is what we're going to use for our shelf supports. This is going to be the most simple thing you make, just requires a little bit of measuring at the start, which I've actually forgotten how I did it. Because I prepared this last summer to do, but I've been so busy and the workshop's been so noisy, I haven't had a chance to get in here and do it. So this is what I drew. Basically, we're going to make a pentagon shape. So it's a 5-sided polygon. Started with a circle with a diameter that I wanted the polygon or pentagon to sit at. So there's 5 points on this circle. And as you can see with all my lines, I didn't do a calculation based on pi or whatever you have to do to find out where these points go. I'm not going to embarrass myself by pretending I know how to use pi. I don't. So you could Google it, I guess, if you want to divide the circumference of a circle. I'm sure pi is used, so maybe I'm clever, maybe I'm not. But in this scenario, I did it wrong on a couple of occasions, and I think we've put arrows where the real marks are that are more accurate. But this is literally just to get a pentagon. You could keep it round to keep it simple, even though cutting a round disc in timber is not the most simple thing. So for this job, I think we're going to use, we could use a jigsaw, or we could use a skill saw, or we could use a plunge saw, which is basically a rail saw. But I think for most of the people who are viewing, who are DIYers, who this particular project did before, I think we'll use a jigsaw today, just to keep it simple so it's relatable, and you can get on with it without having to think you need a different tool or you can't do it because you haven't got the tool I use. So I'm going to try and bear that in mind today, that this is a DIY tool job. So this is basically my template, just so I could work out where the holes are going to be. So just to refresh my own memory, what I've done is drawn this polygon pentagon shape into my circle, so all the points hit the circumference of my circle, so I know how big it's going to be. This is my template. What I'm going to do, or what I have done in fact, is offset these lines. So the lines from the outside of the pentagon I have moved in, from what I can see it's probably about 40 or 50 mil, and then those points I have drilled a pilot hole, I think just a 3.5 mil hole. So one there, one there, one there, one there. I will just come closer just in case you can't see. So here you go, you can see it a lot closer now. You can see all those points. If you pause the screen, you should be able to work out what I've done. And as I say, there is an option on Google where you can search for these calculations to divide circles. So use that if you want. It's probably a lot simpler than what I've done. I don't need to cut this out. It'd be nice to keep this. Where I've got these arrows, which I showed you earlier, I'm just going to draw a point there and I'm going to connect the dots on my bit of timber. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. But I need to measure it because I've got to go to the offcuts rack and pick out the right size bit. So my circumference on this is roughly 590 in millimetres, that's 59 centimetres on the dot. In inches, I have no idea because I'm English, but I might have inches on this one. I have. Right, so any US or imperial users, we have got 23¼ inches. Right, I'm going to find this bit of wood and then I'll come back. Right, so we've got our offcut, or in your case, if you're going to go to the DIY store, just ask them to cut it up to the size you want it. Anyway, what we're going to do, transfer these marks over. I think I might be able to get these two marks close enough to the edge that I don't have to make a cut on the edge. But I'm going to bring you closer to see. So I've got my two holes here, which I want to transfer onto this edge here somewhere. Let me just check that edge. That is good. So there's the edge. You can see it is a multi-layer construction. It's a lovely material to use, very hard, very durable, and in this instance it's going to be perfect. Right, let's actually do something. So we're going to get the bottom of my image here, my sketch, these two holes which I've pilot drilled. I'm going to find something to locate those to the edge of the board. So I think just two screws, any size, something that will poke through, will probably do to help me locate those. And don't forget, the distance between here and here, here and here, here and here, are supposed to be exactly the same, but no one's going to notice if it's a millimetre out. So I'm not fussed if this causes any kind of discrepancies on that front. So they're going to go in there, just going to screw them in a little bit, get them located with the edge. So now that's hitting the edge. Now my other points are here, so I'll do a circle in there, here, circle in there, here, circle in there, and then I'm going to see where these screws reach underneath, and I'm just going to go under and draw a line on those, otherwise we'll lose those points. Then, while you've got these pieces in exactly the right position, where you've marked them already, keep it on here and find yourself a nice pilot bit. So this I think is a 3mm, a little bit bigger than I would normally choose, but it's still going to work. And I've got one in the drill already, so I'll use that. We've done a pentagon here, and this is what we're basing it on today. I came in from the edge of my pentagon, 50mm I believe, let me just check for you. Yeah, just over 50mm. And I have pre-drilled all these holes. So I'm going to pre-drill these and I'll tell you why in a second. So we'll do the 5 points. Just a quick indent, doesn't have to be anything major. This is basically to help you see where everything is after you've cut out your shape. Right, I'm going to bring you over to see something else. We have now got our screws to locate at the bottom, which I'll show you. They are here, and basically I've drawn a line down from the screw to show me where it is, so that when I take this sheet away I can then join up these lines here to create my pentagon. So we have just pre-drilled these holes on the outside, just these ones, and what I've done, as you can see, is made a star shape simply by joining all of these pieces together in every combination, which is basically just your average star. Where these lines meet, I've also drawn a circle and pilot hold those. So we're going to be putting a shelf in here, a shelf here, but firstly we've got to pilot hole these. I was just showing you what other holes we're going to be doing, so I'm going to pilot hole those now. Right, now that's done, I'm going to get rid of this template. Now we're left with a load of holes. So we have our inner pentagon holes here, but we also have our outer marks we made with our pencils. So here are our pencil marks, and then our edge marks for the bottom where the screws were, we can now transfer onto the top. Once you've done that, you've got all your holes in the middle and your marks on the outside, you can then join those marks together to make your pentagon. So let's do that. What I'm going to do now is cut these cuts and turn this into almost the final product. So this is a jigsaw. You could use a handsaw, but I'm going to use this today because probably 80% of people watching this have got a jigsaw. It doesn't have to be a cordless, doesn't have to be Makita, doesn't have to be anything special. You can get these for about 10 to 15 pounds, or I don't know, 20 to $30 in the US from any budget supermarket. Any budget DIY store will sell you something that you can afford. You just have to look for it, or just look on Amazon, get a jigsaw. It will help you out better than any handsaw. It's quicker, it's cleaner, and it's just more fun. So let's get this cut. So in here, I haven't got a special blade in it. I've just put a regular blade in, which is a standard upcut blade. This is a sanding block which you can hand sand with. You go along like this, make that nice and smooth. It will take quite some time. A plane, so a hand plane. This is a block plane. A hand plane would be a big one with a handle at the back where you can slide back and forth like that, and the blade is a lot steeper. You can use either of those. I'll try with the block plane and see what we come up with. So I'm going to put it towards me. All of the angle of my breakout is like this direction. So if I go that way, I'm going to be lifting it. If I go that way, I'm going to be going across the top, a bit like having a shave. You want to go down, you know, this isn't a shaving advert, but the point is you go down with the grain so that you're not causing irritation. So on this, the irritation would be, once you've done it, it's going to annoy you that you've pushed all the splinters up even further. So we're going to pull towards us on this one. Take real nice solid cuts on what I'd say, I'm not on a 45 angle, probably on 35, something like that. When you get to the bottom of it, obviously all the grain is kind of 90 degrees to your little hand plane. So if you take your hand plane and angle it so the cut is slicing those pieces, you won't get any extra breakout. That part done. So now you should have a nice pentagon, or if you went for a circle, obviously bear in mind you're going to have difficulty finishing those edges if you're going to do that. With a pentagon, nice straight edges, we're now ready to move on to the next stage. So I think first things first, we will pre-drill these holes. So as I mentioned before, we have got 12mm dowel to go in there. So what I've got is a flat bit or a spade bit. This is 12mm exactly, and I've test fitted this in another offcut of ply just to make sure it works, and it does. So my suggestion would be buy a 12mm cutter, or buy a corresponding cutter to the size of dowel you can get. Because if you can't get a 12mm dowel, there's no point getting a 12mm bit. If you get 15mm dowel, get a 15mm cutter. It all works the same. And what we want to do is work out a depth stop on this. The difficulty with a depth stop is you're going to have to use tape and be slow and gentle with it. Otherwise, you're going to go through the back. The reason why, you have this brad point at the end which guides your drill bit, and we've piloted these holes already, so we're going to have no issues drilling them. What we want to do, because we've got 18mm of material, we don't want to go all the way through. You could do that, but there's a reason why you don't want to. Basically, if you set it so that you end about here depth wise, we're going to put some tape there. So let's do that quickly and I'll tell you why. Doesn't have to be loads of tape, just a good wrap so you can clearly see where you've got to stop drilling. So if I show you again, I don't know if this is focusing, so apologies if it's not. I'll show you again. When we're going in here, we're probably going in about 12mm as well, which is just a coincidence, there's no reason for it. You want to leave a bit of material at the back, because this is basically a cross section of what you're drilling. You're going to be drilling a pilot hole through the back, you're going to have a slightly tapered hole left, and then your 12mm hole next to it. The reason why that's good is that when you come to hanging this on the wall, you can pull your dowels out and use that pilot hole in the back to hold a screw head. So you could take any one of these dowels out and fit it to the wall with a screw or a screw and a raw plug, and basically you've got your hanging points. If you don't do that, you can hang it a different way as well. I am going to put a sacrificial board underneath because I don't want the holes all over my bench. So we're going to drill all of these to this depth, and then that process is also complete. Right, that's all the holes done. Tap out your sawdust and have a look at the back. So you basically haven't even caused any splintering on the back, which is great because now you don't have to do anything to the back. That's basically finished. Let's get rid of the sacrificial board. So you will see that there are some splintering areas on here. Now this splintering is just caused from your drill bit spinning maybe at the 90-degree point to your grain. So what we're going to do is just quickly get a sanding block, or if you don't have a sanding block, get a bit of sandpaper, which you probably should have if you're a DIY woodworker. Sand over the holes, first pass. Second pass, you want to get some kind of point so you can just go around the hole and take the last bit of splintering off. That is the prep for the backboard complete. So now we're going to cut some dowels. Basically you want to pick a depth for your shelves, and we'll say 120mm. A couple of screws through it, so your 2 screws from earlier. So let's put a stop this end so that we can just push our rod up to it and it will stop, and we know we can cut straight away. Put your stop next to it, give it a little bit extra because you've got a saw blade thickness to bear in mind. We have our dowel. If I come in, stops there, cut there, 1 done. 1, 10. Right, let's get rid of this. Now you've done that, you might have a little bit of cleanup to do. So on some of these, you have got some splintering. You can just pull that off, and you probably won't ever see it. I can't actually see that because it's mixed in with the oak grain. There's a couple of things to do right at the last bit before they go in here, is to give them a little bit of a tidy up. So get it on an angle, bit of sandpaper you had earlier, twist them round basically like this you're doing to get that edge a bit nicer and more presentable. Now you've done that, you need to prep everything ready to go together. Not a difficult job, easier if you've got a block. So I'm going to use the block just because I've got one here. If you haven't got a block, you can fold your sandpaper up and use it that way. I'm not going to use an electric sander because I said I'd make this simple. So here's your block. You're just going to look at the grain, it all goes that way. Your edges will need sanding, so will these bevels you create with the planer, and you want to get any pencil marks off. Right, that's that prepped. Now, what we want to do is chuck some kind of finish on this. So today we're going to use Pollux Oil by Osmo. No particular reason, it's what I've got on the shelf. I could use anything. I've got some Rubio monocoat, but that's quite pigmented and make it more white. This one is just a good finish, we can chuck it straight on. Now what we want to do, get a little bit, you can take some off the lid or whatever you've got, but bear in mind that those bits sometimes have dry bits in. I would suggest probably put it on top of something so it doesn't go all up the bench. Let's get these two off the cupboard we had. Just oil it. You can go with the grain, you can go against the grain, you can do whatever you want at this stage as long as you don't put it on too thick. Go around, don't forget to do all your edges, yeah? Keep it consistent. Right, if you've made it this far, you've done a great job. You've got a couple extra bits to do. These don't technically need anything on them, but you can oil them. Can't really see it, but you can oil them. They come up a little bit more golden than normal. But I'm going to leave them on this occasion. Two reasons why. One is, obviously when you're oiling, try not to get oil in your holes if you've got a lot on your rag. But one reason I would keep these bare, when you come to put them in, if you decide not to use these holes in your 12mm holes you've drilled for fixing to the wall, you might want to glue these in. If you've got oil on that and oil on this, it's not going to glue because there's no actual wood for it to stick to. But in this scenario, these holes are pretty snug. I tested it earlier, like I said to you, and the snugness is going to work in our favour. So, we've already taken the sharp edge off these from where they've been cut. You're just going to place it over the hole, as tight to the hole as possible, and tap it in. This is the point where you can start to see what you've made. If you stand it upright, you can keep this as it is, as a pegboard for keys, coats perhaps, not all the way around. But you know, it's really versatile. You could leave it as it is. I think what we'll do is I will go and quickly cut a couple of shelves just to show you what it looked like with shelves. I won't go through that, it's just going to be two straight bits of timber, the depth of these, and I'll show you what that looks like. But I'll go and do that now, and then I'll give you a final image.